Hello and welcome to the Yeg Show. My name is T. Adeyemo, and I'm delighted to bring up my guest. I'm always excited to promote people within our community who do things different, extraordinary people. So, Adrian Bruff is a community activist and organizer. He's running to be elected councillor for What Ode mean. He's an alumni of MacEwan University. He works as a um, it works as a social worker and disability advocate within our communities. He's a homeowner and resident of Oliver, and he's also very passionate about community growth and development. In 2021, he featured in our winter. In 2020, he featured in our winter edition, as you can see, and there you have it. There is Adrian. I am pleased to introduce the candidate for the Odemin Award, Mr. Adrian Bruff. Where are you? Hi,
Hi,
Adrian.
hey, how are you? Thank you for that introduction and thank you for inviting me.
You're welcome. I'm just wondering, when people see you, do they see cute or politics? Which is it? Look at
You know,
you.
it's a mixture of it's a
Look
mixture of
at her.
both. One of the response folks normally say to me, "Oh, this is a very handsome flyer that you have, handsome photograph that you have on your campaign flyer," and then they talk about politics. So it's a mixture of both.
Other than being cute and handsome, when people see you, do they see race?
Well, that's the first thing that people see, right? They see
Uh,
a black cis male walking up to their doorstep, and it's introducing myself to them, letting them know who I am, why I'm there, and why I'm running for council. Yeah,
So, who is Adrian Bruff? Who are you? What do you tell
yeah.
people when they wonder at, a young black man that could be out there toasting girls or making money, or I don't know what young men do out there today. Who is Adrian Bruff?
So yeah, my name is Adrian Bruff. I am a community activist and organizer here on the traditional territory of 3 to 6, social worker, disability advocate, and I'm a champion for working class families. And I'll be running in the next municipal election in the new riding Odemin to be a city councillor. So it's a new riding from an indigenous name. It means heart of the city, and it's also a fruit, strawberry. So if you're from the communities of Westmount, Queensmere Park, Central McDougall, Macaulay, Boyle Street, Riverdale, Rossdale, Downtown, Oliver, Prince Rupert, Westwood, Spruce Ave, and Blatchford, I'm ready to become your next city councillor. You know, I am from a working poor class family. My mother was a single parent and she raised my brother and I, and we grew up in poverty. Uh, and growing up in poverty meant that there were nights that as kids we went to bed hungry. We didn't have enough food to eat. It meant that we missed out on school trips and plays that other students were enjoying. We were so poor that at one point we had to rent a room in a house where we shared kitchen and bathroom with strangers. So just imagine that, a family of three renting a room with roommates. And it wasn't for lack of trying. We saw our mother growing up struggling and working her hardest to make sure that my brother and I can achieve our own goals and aspirations, sacrificing hers. Now, my brother is a successful high school teacher and author, and now I'm running as a candidate for Edmonton City Council. I truly believe that when our city starts to build back after this pandemic, we need someone who not only has the experience, but also have the lived experience of fighting for working class families and the issues that matters to them. And those are some of the reasons why I'm stepping up in this race. So, when community members ask me, Adrian, we're struggling to provide school supplies for our children. I felt at that time it was my duty to respond and to help those families. That is why for the past 4 years, I've organized our annual back to school supply drive, which to date has raised over 1,200 backpacks. Sorry, has helped over 1,200 families with school supplies that they need to go to school. Or when families say to me that, I'm having difficulties connecting with families in our community, these are our most vulnerable community members, people who are homeless. I felt it was my duty to organize an annual family day event where we can connect those families together and have a meal so that they can build those reconnections again. And it's volunteering on different community initiatives and organizations and community boards. And those are some of the things and activities that I've been doing in our community, which have led me now to run as a candidate for city council.
Mm. Your mom, she must be. proud, so proud of you because it's so noble to run, to even think about running and then to run. How proud is she right now of her son? Are you the first son?
I'm the second, so she's extremely proud. Always, so my mom is back home in Ontario, so she's always calling and just checking in to make sure that things are going well, that I'm
Oh.
eating and I'm eating and I'm getting my rest. But she's so proud of us.
Yeah,
And you know,
she won't have to worry for the rest of her life because she all those times you spent sharing bathrooms and kitchens with strangers made a significant impact, and it's changed you for forever. And I'm just wondering, growing up in poverty, how that influenced your journey into politics, and why politics?
that's a good question. So politics is, when I was younger, I read a book from the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Michael Manley, and it's called The Politics of Change. Um, and at that time, it in that book, it talks about the roles and responsibility of government and the responsibilities that they have to their citizens. So growing up poor meant that we didn't have the resources to live a good, comfortable life. And going into politics, where the decisions are being made that affects people's life, is why I've decided to do that. Because I wanted to make sure that no child in our city, in our province, or in our country can grow up in poverty the way that I have. And if I can contribute to changing that by running for public office, by getting elected, and by enacting policies that are going to benefit working families and our working poor, that's something I'm going to be proud of.
Mm. You said in your TikTok video yesterday, I think, was it today, you're a candidate for working families, social justice causes. What does that even mean? What does it mean when you say you're fighting social justice inequalities and you're a candidate for working families?
Well, social justice causes goes to the backbone and the core of my values, in which my brother and we were raised upon by my mother. Um, Honesty, hard work, and trustworthiness. So social issues are people who are homeless, living in poverty, minorities who are being denied certain opportunities because of how they look, how they worship, and who they love. And so we want to make sure that we're championing those social issues to make sure that we're building an equal and equitable society where not just certain aspects of our communities are thriving, but all of us are thriving. And those are some of the initiatives and there are a lot of initiatives that I'm looking to put forward to make sure that we're building an equal and just society for all Edmontonians to thrive
Mm.
in.
Many times, people like you and I, okay, maybe not you, but maybe more me, don't see the effects of politics. Winning the councillorship would not necessarily equate to an extra meal in my fridge or additional money in my pocket. So, what are the practical changes you want to give the residents of your constituency? What are the things you're running on, Adrian, and why should we vote for you?
Well, some of the main issues that residents have been sharing with me on their doorsteps in my riding are the issue of homelessness, the economy, and crime and safety. Those are the top three issues that residents actually want somebody not only who has a plan, but also have the experience dealing with those issues. And with my career as a social worker, working within our inner city communities like Boyd Street, Macaulay, Central, Madugo, and downtown, I think I have the first and experience to tackle some of those issues. So, for example, the issue of homelessness. Uh, because of this pandemic, many folks who are not in the 1% are vulnerable to being houseless. And we need to make sure that we have elected official and a government that understands that and making sure that we have policies in place, those safety nets to protect those families. So homelessness may seem as if it has increased in our community during this pandemic because of Camp Pick Away Win. But the reality is there's a lot of organizations out there that are doing amazing work to house our most vulnerable community members. So I do have a plan on how I think we can best address that. It's a long-term plan and it's a two-part plan on the issue of homelessness. Because the reality is, many people who are homeless or who are experiencing chronic homelessness are at a stage where we can only provide palliative care for them. So what I want to do is to make sure that we're building wellness centers within our communities and looking into buildings that we can transform into these centers. So the first couple of floors can have all the support services that they need: mental health, addiction counseling, a safe consumption site, 24-hour access to food, rehabilitation. And then above that, we're going to build 1 bedroom, 2 bedrooms for families to stay at. So they have all the support that they need downstairs, and they can stay upstairs. And then from that, when folks are ready, we can then transition them out into our community, into affordable homes. And that's where my vacant and abandoned property initiative is going to help those folks transition out into our community and have the supplies and the housing support that they need.
You've really thought that through, and well done. Well done. If I were gonna give you the job, I'll say right here and now, Adrian, the job is yours. If I had a job to give, I'll give that to you. Well done. Well thought through. The world is mourning the loss of Cicely Tyson tonight, and she's inspired millions of people across the world. I'm just wondering, I know you alluded to the fact that you read a book. What role models, as in Black mentors in this city or in Ontario, inspired you along the way?
Well, I'm glad you asked local, because people tend to ask me, what inspired you to run for office? And it's so common to go to the Barack Obamas and the Nelson Mandela. But in our city, it's local community activists and organizers, that some of whom are David Shepherd, for example, who is our MLA for Edmonton City Centre. It's seeing him doing that good work in our community, and then representing our community with such grace, poise. Those are the type of role models that I look up to and want to emulate when I get into why I'm running for office, and if I get into city council.
You can't get wrong with David Shepherd. You say the name and doors just open. You can't get wrong there. Sorry?
David is awesome, yes.
Absolutely, he's on point. And he's helpful to everybody. He's a great man. So this is COVID pandemic. What are some of the challenges you face in spreading the gospel, in spreading your gospel in this season? And what steps are you taking to overcome them?
So COVID-19 has presented a very unique challenge to our campaign. We are very fortunate enough to have a very diverse group of folks working with us, from different socioeconomic status background, race, sexual orientation, gender identity, religion. And believe it or not, that diversity has been an edge to our city, because we can then reach out to different intersections in our communities and how best to approach them and present ourselves. COVID-19 means that campaigning during COVID-19 means that it's more online content, more virtual meetings that we're doing now, more advertising on social media, and that costs money. So if you can, chip in $5, $10, or $15, hop on over to AdrianBruff.ca and make a small donation. We'd really appreciate it.
Yeah, we're coming to Adrian Bruff. We're coming to how can we help. But I just wanted to talk about the unique challenges of sharing your message in the pandemic season. Well, what are some of the highlights when you go? What are people, other than the problems, what are some of the things that inspires you when you talk to people?
Well, it's hearing their stories and folks sharing with me the type of city that they'd like to see and they'd like to live in growing up and retiring in. So if a family said to me that I have a child and that child has a difficulty reading, as a community, it is our responsibility to make sure that that family has all the resources that they need for that child to be successful, because that child is our city's future. Or if I'm talking to seniors on their doorsteps and they're worried about the cost of living, and being able to buy prescription drugs or pay their mortgage and also put food on the table, it is our responsibility to make sure that we're taking care of our seniors and they have all the resources that they need. People always say to me, when you're running for municipal election, you should stay within your lane. But when seniors pour out to me that they're worried about buying prescription drugs, I can't just stay in my lane. I have to then ask the provincial government, lobby the federal government to make sure that we have programs and systems in place to provide those families. So those are some of the things that I've been hearing on doorsteps from families, and that are beyond the issue, that are beyond the core citywide issues, more personal issues, and having that human connection and having that empathy to wanting to help people, to want to do public service, is why I can connect with these folks and get their support.
Do you think that people of color should prioritize volunteering and working to get you elected? Or maybe a better way to put that is, why should we join you and why should we get involved?
Well, it's a very common question that folks tend to ask me when they see me. Adrian, why should we be involved in politics, and in particular municipal politics? And my answer to them is always, yes, you should be involved, because it matters who your elected official are and who your government is. When our city starts to build back better, it matters having a candidate on council who's going to fight for our small businesses and entrepreneurs. It matters having a candidate on council who's going to advocate for affordable homes, who's going to support social justice causes, who's going to protect our environment, who's going to grow our economy, keep our community safe, and ensure that we're living in a healthy society. These are things that matters. So by reminding folks of the importance of government and why it matters, people tend to give politics a second look. And then I always encourage them to look at my resume. And many folks see me in the community because of my community service for years. So they tend to always say, "Oh, hey, Adrian, I heard that you're running for office. I met you 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, or 4 years ago at this event. I'd love to help." So people have been pretty receptive to our campaign, and they've been volunteering. So I'm really appreciative of that.
City Hall is very white, isn't it?
Currently, it is. We have 2 visible minorities on council now, but it is predominantly white and predominantly men.
I think you joining, seeking office here would help to diversity. Will help to diversify City Hall, I think, and we wish you all the best. I know you're a very busy man, and you also spend time reading, improving on your knowledge base. Could you share with our audience what you're reading now, or perhaps what you read over Christmas?
Yeah, I actually, you're right. It's going to get busy over the next couple of months while the campaign heats up. But I do enjoy reading. I try to read at least 15 books a year. And as I said earlier in the show, some of the books that really left a meaningful impact in my life are The Power of Politics and Change by former Prime Minister of Jamaica, Michael Manley. Again, as I said, it transformed my total perceptions of government and government's role and responsibilities in our society, to our citizens. Another book that I enjoy reading is Ed Scott Fitzgerald, The Great Gatsby. That's also a book that I enjoy reading. And former U.S. President Barack Obama's Dreams from My Home. So when I was in the community of Westmount, I met a lovely couple, Mark and his wife, and they recommended that I read Arthur Miller's Death of a Salesman. So that is what I'm currently reading now.
Okay, I've heard a lot about Death of a Salesman. Okay. Oh yeah, because you wrote that you read that in the magazine. Okay, where can we find you online, and how can we get involved, Adrian? Where do we send our money to?
Yeah, absolutely. Go to AdrianBruff.ca. There's a donation link there. You can make a donation when you can. There's also a volunteer link there. You can fill out the form, and we will have you. We'll send you an email and have you up and running to volunteer with us. You can also send us an email, info@AdrianBruff.ca, or volunteer@AdrianBruff.ca. We're on all social media platforms: Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just type in Adrian Bruff, you'll find us. I'd love to hear from you guys, so please reach out.
You're Adrian Bruff, and you're running to be elected councillor for Ward O'Damin, and you can be found at AdrianBruff.ca. Thank you so much for joining the show tonight. Your answers have been brilliant, brilliant, and I hope people look beyond your everlasting cuteness and they they volunteer or they vote for you. Thank you again, Adrian, for your time.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. Thanks, everyone. See you next time.